Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a while since we have met. As promised, I'm here with my first video on grade 10th, chapter 1 of grade 10th, A Letter to God. This chapter we will be doing in two parts. In first part, we will read and understand the chapter, and in the second part, we will see objective, theme, characters, summary, mind map, significance of title, and question answers of the chapter. So without delay, let's read and understand this wonderful chapter, A Letter to God. Before you read, they say faith can move mountains. But what should we put our faith in? This is the question this story delicately poses. Faith, that means complete trust, belief. If it is strong, it can even move mountains. It can even make impossible things possible. But what should we trust on? What should we put our faith in? This is the question that this story takes and this story explains. Lencho is a farmer who writes a letter to God when his crops are ruined. Have you ever heard or seen anyone writing a letter to God? This was Lencho's faith in God. Asking for 100 pesos. Pesos is a currency that we will see in the chapter. Does Lencho's letter reach God? Does God send him the money? Think what your answer to these questions would be and guess how the story continues before you begin to read. Can you think of it? Take a while and think about these questions. Now let's read the chapter. The house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest of a low hill. Crest means top of a hill. So the house, which was Lencho's house, and it was the only house in the whole valley, it was on a top of a low mountain or hill. From the height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn dotted with flowers that always promised a good harvest. So from the top of the hill, the whole valley, the river and the fields which was ripe, it can be seen. And the field always promised good harvest. That means Lencho always used to get good crops from his field. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour or at least a shower. So Lencho's crops were ready to be harvested. The only thing that was needed was a last rain. Throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately means closely, had done nothing else but see the sky towards the northeast. So Lencho, who was expecting rain throughout the morning, he was just looking towards the northeast, expecting rain. Now we are really going to get some water, woman. So he told his wife that now it is really going to rain. The woman who was preparing supper means dinner, replied, yes, God willing. So she said, yes, if God wills, we will definitely get rain. The older boys were working in the field while the smaller ones were playing near the house until the woman called them all. Come for dinner. So it was dinner time and Lencho's wife, she called her sons to have food. It was during the meal that just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. So while they were having their food, as Lencho has predicted that it will rain, big drops of rain started falling. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. So huge clouds were approaching through the northeast. The air was fresh and sweet. And Lencho, the man, he went out for no other reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. So he went out because he wanted to feel the rain on his body. He was so happy that it rained. And when he returned, he exclaimed, these aren't raindrops falling from the sky. They are now coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5. So when he came inside, he said to his wife that these are not just raindrops, these are coins, because he was so happy that the rain has happened and he is going to have good harvest and a prosperous life. That is why he compared the raindrops with coins. That means prosperity. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers draped in curtain of rain. So he was satisfied. He saw his field, they were all draped, they were all covered with the curtain of rain. Rain was falling on them. But suddenly a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones began to fall. But suddenly the situation changed. A very strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, Hailstones also started falling. Hailstones are balls of ice. They also started falling. These truly did resemble new silver coins. The boys exposed themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. So these hailstones actually resemble coins. They were looking like silver coins, and the boys, they went outside to collect those frozen pearls. Pearls because they looked like pearls. "It's really getting bad now," exclaimed the man. "I hope it passes quickly." It did not pass quickly. Now the situation had changed, and Lencho hoped that it passes quickly. The hailstorm, it passes quickly. But it did not. For an hour, the hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. The field was white, as if covered with salt. The entire valley, the field, it was as if it was covered with salt, because it was covered with hailstone. Why salt has been used? Because salt makes a field barren. It destroys a field. In the same way, the hailstone has destroyed Lencho's entire field. Not a leaf remained on the trees. The corn was totally destroyed. The flowers were gone from plants. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. There was nothing on the trees. They were all the tree leaves have come down. All the crops have wasted. All the crops have ruined. And Lencho's heart was filled with sadness. He was very sad. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, "A plague of locust." Locust is an insect which travels in group and destroy the crops. It looks like this. So when the hailstone has passed, Lencho, who was standing in the middle of his field, he told his son that a plague of locust would have left more than this. So the field was so totally ruined that nothing was left. And Lencho, who was very sad, he told his son that even if a plague of locust, if the locust had attacked, they would have left more than this. But now there was nothing left in the field. "The hail has left nothing. This year we will have no corn." That night was a sorrowful one. All our work for nothing. There's no one who can help us. We'll go hungry this year. So Lencho was worried that they will go hungry that year, because their all crop was destroyed and there was no one who could help them. They were left with nothing. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. So Lencho and his family, they had a single hope, and it was help from God. In their hearts, they know that God is there to help them. Don't be so upset. Even though this seems like a total loss, remember, no one dies of hunger. That's what they say, no one dies of hunger. So they had heard that nobody dies of hunger, and they were hopeful with this thought. All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope, the help of God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Conscience is one's inner sense of right or wrong. So all through night, he was thinking about it. He was thinking of his only hope, that was God. And he had been instructed that God sees everything, even what is there in one's heart, in one's inner sense. Lencho was an ox of a man, working like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. So Lencho was a very hardworking farmer. He used to work a lot in the field, but still he knew how to write. The following Sunday at daybreak, he began to write a letter, which he himself would carry to the town and place it in the mail. It was nothing less than a letter to God. So he decided that the following Sunday, he would go to the post office, carry a letter, write a letter to God, and post it there. God, he wrote. So in the letter he wrote, which he addressed to God, "If you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. I need 100 pesos in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes, because the hailstorm." Peso is currency which is used in several Latin American countries. So now Lencho started writing a letter to God, and he told God everything, that how his crop has destroyed and how he is left with nothing, and he asked for 100 pesos from God. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside it, and still trouble went to the town. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. So in address section on the envelope, he wrote to God, and then he went to the town. He took the stamp and he put it on the letter and dropped it in the mailbox. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at post office, went to his boss, laughing heartily, and showed him the letter to God. So one of the postman, he took that letter, he saw that letter, and he laughed and he took it to his boss, because the letter was addressed to God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. So, because he had never seen that address in his career, the postman, a fat, amiable means friendly and pleasant. So, postman who was a friendly person also broke out laughing, but almost immediately he turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of man who wrote this letter, starting up a correspondence with God." Correspondence is communication through letter. So first he also laughed, and then he immediately became serious, and he said, "What faith this person has in God, and I wish I also had this faith to be able to write letter to God, to communicate with him through mails, through letters." So in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea: answer the letter. But when he opened it, it was evident that to answer he needs something more than goodwill, ink and paper, but he stuck to his resolution. So when he opened the letter and read it, he knew that he needs, if he want to help that man, he needs something more than goodwill, ink and paper. He wanted to reply to the man, but in order to reply to the man, he needs something more. But he stuck to his resolution. Resolution means his firm decision. But he had decided to help that person, and he stick to it. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave part of his salary, and several friends of his were obliged to give something for an act of charity. So he collected money from his friends, from his colleagues, and he also contributed a part of his salary. It was impossible for him to gather the 100 pesos, so he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. He put the money in an envelope addressed to Lencho, and with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. So he gathered money, but he was not able to collect all 100 pesos. He was able to collect only 70 pesos. And with that, it was just little more than half of what Lencho has asked for. And he put that money in the envelope, and he wrote Lencho's address on it. And just with that, he kept just one letter. And in that, he wrote God. Now, the following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. So, the next Sunday, Lencho came to the post office to ask if there is a letter for him. And it was the postman himself who had handed the letter to the postmaster. Experiencing the contentment of a man who has performed a good deed looked on from his office. So the postmaster, he was content. He was satisfied that he has done a good job, and he was looking on from his office to see what would be Lencho's reaction. Lencho showed not the slightest surprise on seeing the money. Such was his confidence, but he became angry when he counted the money. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. So Lencho was not at all surprised when he opened the letter, but when he counted, his expression changed into that of an angry one, and he believed that God could not make such mistake. God would send him what he has requested, because God knew that he needed it. Immediately, Lencho went up to the window to ask for paper and ink. On the public writing table, he started to write with much wrinkling of his brow. So immediately, Lencho went to the window of the post office, and he asked for ink and paper, and he started writing a letter. And while he was writing, there were a lot of wrinkling of his eyebrows, caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. So when we are expressing our ideas or we are angry, our brows move in that way. So in the same way, Lencho's brows were also moving. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp, when he licked and then affixed to the envelope with a blow of his fist. So after finishing, he went to buy a stamp, then he licked that stamp and he put it on the letter, blew it with his fist to stick it properly. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, the postmaster went to open it. And as soon as Lencho posted in the mailbox, the postman, it arrived to the postman, and he opened it. It said, God, of the money that I asked for, only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. So Lencho had written that, God, out of the money that you have sent to me, I got only 70 pesos. Please send me the rest of the money, because I need it a lot. But don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are a bunch of crook. Lencho. Bunch of crook means a group of corrupt and dishonest people. Lencho also added, God, please don't send it through the mail, don't send it through a letter, because the post office employees, they are a bunch of criminals. Because Lencho thought that the post office employees have taken his 30 pesos, because God could not do that mistake. God would send him all 100 pesos, and God must have sent him all 100 pesos. It was the post office employees who have taken his 30 pesos from the envelope. That was Lencho's trust in God, that he never doubted God, and he doubted the post office employees who have helped him. Now this is the end of the chapter. The rest about the chapter we will do in our next video. Till then, bye bye. Take care.